And welcome to another edition of the Carolina Contractor Show. Me and Donnie are so good with each other. We talk to each other's family members during the recording of a show. My daughter walked in the background, and Donnie hears her and says, "Hey, Reagan." And Reagan goes, "What was that?" I said, "Mr. Donnie said hi." And so she said, "Hey, back." But that's how we roll here. And we'll treat you like family, too. My name's Eric Smith. Across from me, again, general contractor, Donnie Blanchard, also owner of Blanchard Building Company. And I want to direct you to the website, thecarolinacontractor.com. You can find a lot of details there at the show. It's a great starting point. It's like the launching pad. It's like a diving board into a nice, refreshing pool in the middle of summer. Probably not really, but you can still go there. Also listen to past shows. We've got literally hundreds of episodes that you can download in podcast form. We've got the ATC button, Ask the Contractor. You got a question about your house, building, construction in general. Donnie's probably seen it all. I see more of it, but I don't have his level of expertise in that. Also, the YouTube channel. You can see shows that we've uploaded there and take a peek at them. But man, there's a bunch of stuff we got going on, Donnie, I'd say.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We've been at it for a while, and, we got a lot of support, a lot of momentum with the show, and I couldn't be more grateful to all the people who listen every week. And it's nothing for me to walk through a store and somebody comment on what I said last week, and I'm sort of afraid of what's going to come out of their mouth when they open with that. But no, a lot of people compliment us and tell us that they learned things that they did on their mother's house, their children's house, and I'm glad to be a part of that.
Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar, I did like 25, 30 years in radio, so it wasn't uncommon for people to go, "I recognize your voice." But it's weird with the show because you're right. The content of what we talk about is what people now say to me. I was at work one time, and I've told you this before, and a guy came up and I said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "Yeah, I need some 6x6 post," or whatever he needed. And then I said, "Anything else?" And he says, "Are you Eric Smith?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I listen to Carolina Contractor Show all the time." That was I don't know, it was just different to be recognized for that than for doing radio for years and years.
Yeah, it got real that day, man. You made that career change, and I'm glad to be part of that as well. I tell that story there. You pretty much ran all the stations at iHeart for years, and when you made the change, you got a lot of your family time back. You got that 1 hour commute, 2 hour commute both ways back every day, and man, you had that going on for a lot of years. And if you learned enough about construction from doing the show to fall right in there in the building supply business, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, that's kudos to you because it was an unintentional mentorship that led to that. And yeah, here's the one thing you pointed out that's really a big deal is I was driving about an hour each way. And I know you get long drives, but that depends on where you're building. But now I'm 2.3 miles from home, and our store is moving sometime in the near future. And they said, "Will you be okay with the new location?" I said, "Where is it?" And they said, "It's 2.3 miles the other direction." That right there is a raise every day. I love it.
Taking care of you. I'm glad you like it.
Yep. All right. So we are, like we said, me and Donnie, we like to shoot the bull and have fun on the show and talk about construction, which can sound like a dry or a boring subject, but it's not, because we like to be topical of things. And one of the big things is buying a house. It doesn't seem much harder. It is harder to buy. And do you remember the first house you ever got into, Donnie?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was in way over my head. Quit my job, started a business, built a house, all in about the same year. And I came real close to losing that thing. Don't recommend that in your mid-20s, but can't tell a 25-year-old anything. You got to get in there, feel some pain, do it for yourself. And but yeah, still cool house, cool experience. And I'm the growing pains that came along with that, I wouldn't trade for anything. But it wasn't easy then for different reasons that it's not easy now.
Yeah, that's a good way to summarize that. It is different for different reasons, and it wasn't easy. And I'm all that boomer talk, though we're not boomers. All that boomer talk about, oh, they've got all the money and they screwed us. Shut up. They had it harder than you in many ways. So stop whining about it. It's different generations face different issues. And it goes back to starter homes, because that kind of seemed like you grow up in your house, you go off to school, you work a part-time job with an apartment. Maybe you find that girl or guy and you get married and you move into your starter home. And so the trend now is starter homes are kind of disappearing because of the home prices are really, really high. In North Carolina, for example, the average value of a house is like 325,000. The price is closer to 400 if you're trying to sell it. That's a lot of money, 350, $400,000 to buy, quote, a starter home.
Yeah, it is. And when you consider what a starter home was just 6 years ago before the pandemic, that's $150,000 swing. And compared to me 20 years ago, it's 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 $250,000 swing. So there's several factors that go into this thing, and the cost of building materials has gone up. Interest rates are still a lot higher than they were for years and years, and just basically in our area, the demand for housing it just drives the availability part of that. So they just don't have the inventory to support in terms of that size house. All the new folks that are moving into the area, so it's death by 1,000 cuts. And I know I whine about affordability for first-time home buyers, and I've got two of those in my family right now that we're trying to offset the external factors with. But yeah, it's a real thing. And the bad news is I don't see it getting better, and how that carries over to folks mine and your age is, gosh, I mean, maybe you plan to retire in your house. Mine's a little bit big for retirement, and I have a second floor master bedroom. So I'd like to downsize, but I'm a little bit discouraged by just my builder cost when I build the thing of how much it's going to be.
Yeah, that's a lot of problem or a common problem for a lot of people is that they have a house that might have a good chunk of equity in it, but they know they're locked into a low interest rate. If they got it 8, 10 years ago, they might have, say, $300,000 in equity, but if they sell their house, they're not going to get anything for $300,000 unless they really downsize. So they're just staying in their big houses. To address your first part of that, I plan to be rolled out with a toe tag of this house. I'm not moving again. I do have 2 stories, our bedrooms upstairs, but I'm more than willing to pay somebody to retrofit our big giant playroom and then maybe expand the half bath downstairs and put a shower in it or something if it got to that point. But I don't want to move. But for people trying to buy, like, I don't know if you talk to your kids about it. You've got your son who's a little bit older. I tell them geography is one big problem with house prices. People want to live close to the city or their job. My former coworker lives in Raleigh, very close to the studios. She loves where she lives. Her house is 100 square feet smaller than mine. Her mortgage is 3 times what mine is because of property taxes, and the value of it is high just because of where it's located. I tell my kids, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Hey, I did an hour commute every day from Wilson to Raleigh. I've got a mortgage payment that's $1,400. Can't beat it.
No. And I'm building a house for my soon to be stepdaughter, and just to see what her payments are going to be with the current interest rates and everything. She's over $2,000, and I guess the battle that they're fighting now is that versus renting, and renting is just about as expensive. The people who set the rental rates in our area, they know what a house payment would be, and sort of like modular folks come in just under a custom built house, so they pitch time savings and money savings, but the rental folks come in, a couple $100 less than what your house payment would be, and that just leaves some of these young people with no choice. So,
well, even if the rental price is a couple $100 more, your down payment is usually just, a security fee, maybe a month's
right.
rental in advance. It's easier for them to get into the apartment because it costs less than a house where you might have to have a larger down payment. I do want to stress, we've talked on past shows, if you're trying to buy a house though, and you're thinking, I can't do it, I can't come up with 20, 30, $50,000 down payment, talk to a realtor. There are lots of options and you might be surprised what can happen. But getting back to the thing about a starter home, the dream home is 2,400 square feet in the US. That's what everybody considers their dream home. In 1970, it was 1,500 square feet. So I think one problem we have when it comes to buying homes is we just have this idea we need to have almost 1,000 square feet than our parents had in a house. And
Yeah.
my parents' house was 1750, and that was mom, dad, and 6 kids and
Wow.
4 bedrooms. So I didn't have my own bedroom till I was almost a teenager.
Yeah, you get to know each other really well that way.
Yeah. So I think sometimes we have to maybe lower our expectations of what we think is a good size for a house if we're going to get it. Not saying it makes it better, but if you see that big, beautiful house and say, I can't afford it, it's 600,000.
Mm-hmm.
Look for a house a little farther out of town and look for a house that's a little bit smaller because a big house is a lot of maintenance cost too.
Oh yeah, they don't think about that part. You got to fill that thing up when you're a young family, and when you fill it up, all it just costs more every time you add a kid. But to your point, you just mentioned the 1,500 square foot house, and you multiply that by the price per square foot, which is about $200 on average. You're 300 grand for a small house. And as a matter of fact, I just finished a 1,500 square foot home for a first time home buyer couple. Great people to work for, but they fell right in that $200 a square foot. And some of the surprises financially that we had were that the municipality they built in had a sewer tap fee of $7,000, and that was because they had to dig under the road to tap into the sewer. So $7,000 of unexpected charges there. So you couple that on top of the 200 a square foot, and all of a sudden you're up at 230, 250 a square foot, and that's a big deal to somebody buying or building their first house.
Also, you being a builder, that can be the best friend of a home buyer because that's your opportunity to give them advice. The example I'd use from my end of the chain is people come in and they're building their house. They've got their plans, and we point out, okay, you need this many windows. And then they see Marvin, and I'm not knocking Marvin. Marvin makes a great window.
Yeah.
But they gave me their list of materials and gave me the list of windows and what they wanted. And they did not even pick the highest end Marvin windows. And I think they're in 18, maybe 20 windows. And they kind of gasped when I came back with about $40,000.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to say, hey, you know what? Silverline is fine. That's a budget window, or Atrium, or there's Contour. And I'm not throwing these names for any other reason, but to let someone know, talk to your builder because they know these things. Talk to a window installer, door people. Find out what is a good, solid choice that won't bust your bank or break your dreams. And that's an advantage how a builder, I guess, can fight back with house prices and help buyers and owners.
I love Marvin. They are pricey, but in the big spectrum, they're not as pricey as Pella. And usually, not to get off topic, but the 3 big options you have are vinyl, aluminum-clad, and fiberglass. And the Marvin fiberglass window is a fairly new product. And when people don't want vinyl, then Marvin is the next best option, I feel like. And I'm a fiberglass man all the way when it comes to doors, windows. I just believe in the product. Aluminum clad's nice. It does fade, and it'll take a ding or whatever. And fiberglass just seems easier to work with. The R value from an insulation standpoint is better than the vinyl and the aluminum clad. And I just kind of like how they sit right in the middle. And I'm perplexed that nobody else has come up with a fiberglass window frame, and I don't know why that is, or if they have a patent on the product. But the one thing I do recommend with Marvin is have their installers put the windows in, because the warranty can swing either way. If you just let your framer slap those babies in a hole, everything from the way you're able to insulate around the window to the warranty is affected by that. So, but I will agree with you when you said that the Silverline or some of the vinyl window lines are a lot less expensive. I recommend people explore the options within the vinyl. So they have, good, better, best in the vinyl windows, and everybody wants black windows these days. So they have to spray that black coat of paint on there. And the window rep on the last house I got from him made me feel a lot better. He made a good point and said that when you spray the black paint on the vinyl surface, it doesn't let go like wood. If you paint a wood product, wood is from the earth. It's going to shrink and swell, move. It's going to be susceptible to heat and water or any kind of moisture that may come in contact with it. So, of course, that paint is more susceptible to turn loose from that wood. But he said vinyl doesn't move, shrink, swell. So your vinyl being the substrate actually holds the paint a lot better than what a wood product would. So I'm all for it. It's fairly new. People tried to steer me away from them when they started to paint vinyl in the beginning, but I've had a lot of success with that.
Yeah. What do you think about the sustainable doors? Because some people think, oh, I want a wood door,
Mm,
and the price can be about the same, but a fiberglass door will most likely last a lot longer.
yeah,
People don't
yeah.
realize you can stain them now and paint
If
them.
you I have 2 on the front of my house as we speak. So, and she wanted to replace the doors. I had 2 solid doors. When I built the house, I thought, well, for security purposes, but I live in an area of the country where we don't have to lock our doors. And so, I do for good measure. But we got big doors with glass in them now. And, the first version was a sustainable fiberglass and it looked beautiful. And I want to say I maintained it about every 5 years. I had to do a new coat of stain and I face almost due south. So, sun exposure is a real thing in my house, but the new doors have come a little bit further in terms of quality. So we stained the new doors, and the stains holding up great, a lot better than the older version. So I'm not a wood door person, especially if your doors aren't undercover under a porch
Hmm.
and protected from the elements, or especially if it's south facing. Man, that door it's going to move all around. So it'll take you at least 2 years of hot and cold cycling with the seasons to get that door adjusted so that you don't have to keep tinkering with it because it's going to move. So, not a fan, and they're really expensive.
Yeah, they can be even the wood storm doors. There's these 6 panel or 6 light storm doors. They're old school, but they're coming back. And we've got one on the front of our house. That's how old the house is. But people come in, oh, I want a door. It looks like this, and I show them a picture of the front of my house, and it's like one panel at the base, and they're like, "That's the one." And I said, "Yeah, they run about 800 to $1,000, and they
Yeah.
literally are taken aback by that. There are plenty of storm door or even faux wood doors you can use that no one will ever know, and long term they last forever. Now, Donnie, you doing roofing a lot of your life too. Um, this is an opportunity when building a house. If someone says, "Oh, I want the dormers and I want those houses, our roof to have all those cutting angles and stuff, and the cool geometric design," and you're probably going, money, money, money,
Mm.
and leaks, and money, and money, and money.
Yeah, absolutely. The other factor you didn't mention is the roof pitch. So everybody wants a steep roof pitch because when you look at the house from the street, then that looks much more grand and it makes the house look bigger. But to your point, it's probably a $10,000 to $15,000 swing on an average size house.
Mm.
If you're thinking that your modest roof's going to be about 30 squares, then all those hipped out roofs that have a 12 pitch or a 10 pitch, you're going to go 50 squares real quick. So everything from the roof labor to the amount of materials is affected in that equation. And when you mentioned dormers and chimneys, and I was an architecture major, and I drew all my own plans, and they look great on the plan. I mean, they break up the roof, and it just looks like an accent piece, and people marvel over that. But when you build a house and you actually frame a dormer and you see how many cuts are involved and how it slows the process down, and then you've got this big leak prone doghouse coming out of your roof that really doesn't serve a purpose other than natural light, maybe even in an attic, then the popularity of dormers seems to go the other way because I'm just not a fan of any kind of roof protrusion that's unnecessary. And I think the way that I'm seeing the home design trend is that cleaner roof lines. People aren't going for that. That was about a 2-decade trend where big cut up roofs that have 6,000 square feet of roof area on a 3,000 square foot house were a thing. And from a function standpoint, you if you know what you're looking for, you can just about see where those roofs shed the water. And a lot of times in the front, you'll have 10, 12 feet of gutter supporting 3,000 square foot of roof runoff. So, just from a function standpoint, they don't make sense. And, those gutters are going to get overloaded and cause problems in the boxing and maybe, cause problems around the house because you're not shedding enough water away. But yeah, roof design is a big thing from a budget standpoint and a function.
So, Donnie, you have somebody having you build a house, and you're talking at that stage of some ways to save money. For example, let's not do the high pitch roof. Let's not do all the angles, the dormers. What are a couple other things you might try to steer them toward for the purpose of getting the house they want, but saving money?
Well, you can't hide square footage, and that's probably the most important thing I could say to somebody if they were getting started from a design standpoint. So if you get to start from scratch and you hire an architect, then you want to make sure that you keep him in a target square footage, and so that's the most important thing. And you don't want to give up certain things. I think big kitchen, great room concept is something that has stood the test of time. People seem to like the blended area where you can be cooking in the kitchen and look over your shoulder and keep an eye on the kids. Um, Things like dining rooms and breakfast nooks and just extra rooms for offices that aren't necessary are kind of going away. What I've seen people do is shift towards a larger pantry. The pantry combos, and some people call them sculleries, which is too fancy for me to throw out there. But the basically a larger pantry that has your coffee maker, maybe an ice maker built into there, your microwave, things that people don't want to sit on their countertops. That seems to be the new trend. So, but definitely getting rid of that 150 square foot dining room that nobody sits in, and
Yeah.
doing away with those unnecessary rooms that take up square footage is a big help.
Do you have a dining room?
I do.
And I do too. When was the last time you had 4 or more people or even used it for dining?
Maybe once a year. Maybe once a year.
Yep. I'm in the same
So,
boat. Usually Thanksgiving or Christmas, somewhere around there. But it's a thing of the past, I guess.
yeah. And that's a shame, isn't it? I mean, I think the new theme, and when we did the TV show, we really pumped this out there that we pushed for eat-in kitchens, because that was a fancy way to say that we're taking away this room and making it a bedroom, and you can stand around the kitchen and eat there. But in all reality, that's what happens, because I'm around cooking dinner, we're laying the food out, and everybody's just kind of standing there getting going while you're finishing everything up. And of course, kids have no holdback because they're starving every minute of the day, and they're grabbing the food, and it just kind of seems to happen that way. So larger islands are what we've done to compensate for that. I want to say out of the last 10 houses I built, maybe 8 of them had big islands, and people wanted storage under the island, number one, but number
Yeah.
two, they wanted bar stools on at least two
Yeah.
sides of that rectangular shape.
Mhm.
And you get 6 people at the bar. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter as long as the family's spending time together. And maybe that's just something with the great room concept. You got the TV in the background, and I hate to even admit that, because I would like for things to be different, where you sit around and look each other in the eye and have good conversation. But gosh, maybe it's just my kids. But if I had to guess, I'd say most of them are like that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, we tend to eat at the kitchen table for our meals, even when everybody's there. Well, this is the crazy thing. We'll literally slide a chair over in that last little corner of the kitchen to sit all 5 of us there when we have a dining room table that can sit 8 people comfortably.
Yeah.
But it's got, as I look over at it, it's got stuff on it. It becomes a storage table, which is sad too. Um, you're right about that. Another thing is maybe you have hidden space and don't realize it, because a lot of people have their office and maybe they work from home for a while and don't anymore, or they thought, I need my own room that's my office where I'll pay bills and do budgeting and you end up doing it on a laptop on the couch while watching Netflix. So maybe the home office is kind of somewhere to, I don't know, go. Maybe it's going to go away. If you got a closet in there, you got a bedroom.
When we talked about the notes before the show, you made a good point that I think a lot of people are going back to in person. And I mean, there was a nice grace period, probably too much of a grace period there, where people were realizing that, hey, I don't have to have these big office buildings, that a lot of people can work remotely. And all of a sudden, half the people I knew were at home every day. And when everything kind of cleared up and it was okay to go back to work, they stayed. But I am seeing that trend in the other direction now. And I think that's wise. I think some people are disciplined enough to handle the stay-at-home work gig, but probably not as many as we're allowed to do it.
No, I think that's going away. You talked about, kitchens and how that's becoming the main focal point. I refer to a kitchen as the heartbeat of the house, because if there's a meal being made, everybody congregates there. So I really
Yeah.
do understand why you'd make the kitchen have the islands and the eating spaces and make it bigger. Outdoor living. I know you've got a nice outdoor section at your house. I've got a screened-in porch that my not safe for work fantasy is to glass it in, but have it so I can open the glass, when the weather's nice, but if it's 38 degrees out or there's a thunderstorm, I can sit out there with a cup of coffee and watch the storm go through and enjoy being outdoors or seeing the outdoors. I mean, I even formal dining, people eat outside in a more formal way, but dining rooms are going away. There's something else. Oh, color schemes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not going to spoil it. I have my opinion. What do you see the color scheme trending toward? What colors for the outside of a house?
Um, the black and white still seems to hold in popularity. So everybody wants the white siding, and of course board and batten, the vertical siding has been the most popular thing. And I do preach white siding all day long, because if you go vinyl, it doesn't fade. It's the only color that won't lose its
Mhm.
true color over time. And so that's a safe bet. And of course the shingles we put on now are 50 years, and they don't really fade much and well, they've been on for 20, 30 years out of a 50-year lifespan. And they seem to hold pretty true. But that, with the black gutters and the black window frames, I think is just enough. People are starting to get funky, and they're doing the boxing out of the same color as
Mhm.
the roof, so it's just black, black, black everywhere, and
Yeah.
and that's fine. Some houses pull it off just fine, but I think it depends on the house and the design. The structural engineer that I use for all my blueprints, he's great, and I'm actually building his personal house now. And the side note there, we talked about clean roof lines and everything, and he draws these very complicated plans for people. So when it came time to design his own house, everything is clean lines, lots of straight runs, no wasted space. I mean, it's about 6,000 square feet, but
Good.
that's yeah, just under that. But part of that's the basement, and part of that's the upper floor. I want to say under roof, he's right around 7 or 8,000 square feet. So monster house. I'll put some drone shots up here shortly. We just actually finished the roof and the brick veneer, so as soon as the boxing is complete, it's going to be something to see. But his color scheme is basically a white brick with white mortar, and he did it's called burnished slate, but it's really a medium bronze, if you wanted to get a mental picture of that, on the roof. And the standing seam roof was about 3 times more than the shingle option. But if you see this house and how the clean lines and everything being straight, it was a perfect candidate for a metal roof. Now we're in the process of wrapping the boxing, and because he's got all the white with the brick, he's got massive square footage with all the light, then he's going to go dark on the boxing. And then with that house, when I mentioned the
Mm.
design matters, the fascia, soffit, and the frieze board are all going to be made out of the same metal that the roof is. So it's going to be sharp. And what that does is he maintains that texture, that metal texture, all the way around the boxing until he gets to the brick. So I think it's going to be a looker.
Good for him. And I'm not jealous anybody has a 6,000 square foot home, because there, again, as we said in the beginning of the show, that's a
Yeah.
lot of maintenance. That's energy use you have to consider.
Yeah.
But hey, great. But that does bring me back to a point I hinted at the beginning, and we'll wrap
Yeah.
up the show with. The American dream house is 2,500 square feet, but in 1970 it was 1,500 square feet. That is one reason, when you add 1,000 square feet to the house, that your price is so expensive. I think we're going to start seeing it go back to 1,500, maybe a sweeter middle spot, like 1,800 square feet house, where it's a practical house, not an overtly expensive house, because you have rooms that you never use because you have all this space. Maybe that's the new trend also, is less square footage.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good approach, because like I mentioned earlier, you can't hide square footage. When I do flooring or painting, they charge me by the square foot. So there's no way around that unless you do the work yourself. And I'll dial it back to what you said earlier, the outdoor living space. The reason I like expanded outdoor living spaces is because they're expandable. Like, that's one area of your home where you've got a 2 acre lot or even a half-acre lot. You can have all the outside space that you really need. And we live in an area of the country where you can enjoy that outside space, what, 8 months out of 12?
It
Pretty
may be
easy,
more.
maybe more. And if you put it on the right side of the house, maybe the north side in the summer, you get that much more use out of it, because you're not getting the sun glaring down, heating that space up. But there's so many things you can do, from screen porches to fans to a Four Seasons room with a mini split HVAC system. And I just think that the best way to get the most out of your house is the interior square footage, keep it modest. The exterior, plan it out. If you're going to build a house and you may add or expand the deck to a porch, position the house on the lot where you can do that in the future. And to summarize what we said earlier, choose your windows carefully, do clean roof lines, don't do a bunch of dormers and chimneys and things that are unnecessary roof protrusions. And it's choose the veneer wisely. If you're not opposed to vinyl, that there's so many more options than there used to be. And vinyl's low maintenance, but costs a fraction of what brick or hardy siding does. So
Right.
a lot of things you can do to attain that price per square foot that you're shooting for, especially if you're a first time buyer. And how did we word when we titled the show today? It was the disappearing $400,000 house.
Yeah.
So
I was one of the people that when I finally did the vinyl siding, but I always felt like, oh, this is so cheap. I don't know. It's been great because when dirt and ick and algae builds up over the time and you see it on the side, I have white siding. You can go to your big box store and buy literally a 1 gallon spray on stuff that you mix and just spray it on your vinyl siding, and it literally all the dirt, all the gook falls right off the house, and it looks brand new. And no one would know if you looked at my vinyl siding, even the Southern Exposure side, you wouldn't know that it's been on for a dozen years. It looks like it was put on yesterday.
Yeah, and a lot of that's because it's white. It's easy to clean, doesn't fade, and I'm all for that.
Yeah. So things to consider. I think the number one thing a person can do to improve their chances of getting the house they want at the price they want is to find a reputable, trustable builder, because they're going to know things like you talked about: cleaner roof lines, don't overbuild, don't waste square footage. And I think taking advantage of your property, even if you only have a quarter acre, if you've got a backyard, you can expand living space, whether it's buying a Leonard type shed and customizing it. Or other people are taking their garages and boxing in the front and putting double doors on it, not to be a room necessarily, but just to be an entertaining space where on a nice day, they open up and they look sharp. So you have a lot of ideas that you have, Donnie, that you can give a prospective home builder or buyer and say, this is what you want if you want to get your house and not spend, a gazillion dollars doing it.
Yeah, I think the important part of that is for me or the builder they choose to get their hooks in the planning, get their hooks in the couple before they get too far into the planning phase. Because once you get into an architect's just a guy behind the desk that puts it on paper, and how that translates to the real world is a whole nother story. And heaven forbid you get a designer involved, because they're not budget conscious at all. And if you're at that point in life where you just make that much money, then go for it. But I think there's a way to do this, a really right way to do this, where you kind of get what you want. You might sacrifice on a few things, but it's not really a sacrifice when you consider going vinyl windows instead of fiberglass or aluminum-clad. The energy code dictates the minimum the minimum requirement for windows that meet code. So a vinyl window has all the same attributes as those more expensive windows when it comes to R value, argon gas between the panes, a low E coating on the glass. And of course, you can get bulkier frames with the vinyl and still come out tens of thousands less than what you would. But that window package is a biggie.
100%. New windows today, even what is considered budget, are better than most windows that are 10 years or older. Just Windows is a very important thing. We could do a whole show. Heck, we've done a whole show on Windows. We'll revisit that sometime. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Carolina Contractor Show. And again, we hear a lot of doom and gloom. You can't buy a starter home. It's too expensive. It's too much money, interest rates. Get a realtor, get a builder you trust, look around, be willing to make some, not necessarily sacrifices, but make your eyes smaller than your stomach and kind of think, hey, we need to get a practical house. And you could get a great house, custom built even, for the same price or less that some people are complaining because they want to build right next to the big city and be 4 minutes from work and everything else. Hey, your house is where you spend most of your time. So move away from the city a little bit, find a piece of land and find a builder like Donnie and Blanchard Building Company and get the house that you want.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for that. But you're 100% right on that. And I don't know, these kids got big dreams these days. And, I'm not opposed to a commute. I think it's a time to gather yourself on the way in and unwind on the way home. And, 15-minute drive, it isn't bad. You kind of get used to it and start to like it.
Yeah, that's true. And the people complain they can't afford a house, couldn't finish listening to the end of the show because their DoorDash order came. And they, and they got to, well, I'm not going to get into that. Anyways, Do want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, visit the website if you want more details or you want to share your thoughts on the show and give us ideas for future shows. That address is thecarolinacontractor.com. And we hope to see you again next week.
Take care, everybody.